Final ending of The Roots, Part 1 down below. Well, my STBX got my phone while I was asleep and saw that message. She said she could sense something was off with me, so she went snooping and found that. She told me that I did not have to be afraid to talk to her about divorce, so I spilled all of my feelings and told her this was over. I filled out the attorney paperwork and dropped it off the next day. She has since been going back and forth between accepting this and trying to work out a plan to move apart and begging me not to do this. She is literally crying and begging me not to leave. She says that we are meant to be together and that mistakes were made between the both of us, but she knows this isn't the end. When she said she wanted to meet to talk about how we are going to address my child, she did not really have that talk. Instead, she used it as another chance to beg me to stay with her. She even said I'm divorcing her because I do not love her anymore, and that hurts because I do love her. I just can't take being cheated on. I feel so terrible, like I am giving up on this after 12 years. I feel like I am being unfair because we were happy in marriage coaching and things seemed great, so she is blindsided by me saying actually no, I'm done here. It doesn't seem fair. I feel bad that she is going to have to move in with her mom tomorrow and probably won't be able to afford or have the childcare to move out anytime soon. I feel like I am kicking her out of her own home. This is our home. Her pictures are on my walls. We built that together, and now she's taking what she can fit in a Jeep and leaving. I can't help but to feel like such a prick for giving up on my marriage right now, but I keep trying to remind myself that realistically we probably could not get back to a place of love and trust. I am really struggling with the idea of how this will impact my 7-year-old. When she is with me, she will miss her mom, and when she is with her mom, she will miss me. She asked me last night if I would be sad sleeping on the couch alone. She slept in my bed with my STBX. That's my daughter's big heart wanting everyone to be happy, and it's about to be not happy. Not happy at all. Her entire world is going to change, and that feels like my fault. What she did with the guys on texting really enough to say this is it for us. I should just divorce already. This isn't my fault. She is garbage. I am looking desperately for someone to tell me we can still work this one out. You guys are all right. That is such a terrible feeling, knowing full well I am being disrespected day after day and still dumb enough to think we should work through it. I just had held hope in my heart that this was fixable, but in reality, it's just not. She is not faithful and will continue to cheat, as she has basically already told me. Last night I lost any feelings of hope. Wednesday she said she wanted to talk about what our conversation would look like with my child on Thursday. That way my STBX could move out on Friday, which is her choice, and I am happy about it, honestly. Anyway, she didn't try to talk to me about that. She tried begging and pleading for me to stay with her. We never got a dialogue down to present to my child, as this was going to be the hardest conversation we would have with her. Since we did not come up with a dialogue, I was unsure of how last night would go. My STBX came home from work and was acting completely normal. No real emotion, not friendly but not crappy, just asked how I am and such. We had initially agreed to 50-50 custody, rotating 1 week at a time. I knew that would destroy everyone involved because that is a long time away from our child. So, I worked with my family and attorney to come up with a better plan for everyone, which was for my STBX to have her on Monday, Tuesday, and me to have her on Wednesday, Thursday, and we rotate weekends. This would allow us to do the exchanges at the school and not see each other. For example, my STBX would drop my child off at school Wednesday and I'd pick her up from school, since that's my day. This would mean that my child would not go more than 5 days at a time without seeing her mom and dad, and it would be easier on her. Instead of having to try and keep convincing my STBX and I to stay around each other, we would just simply pick her up from school when it's our time. Anyway, I drafted a 2-page proposal of this and left it on the bed. You have to break things down Barney style for her, so I wanted to make it as easy to understand as possible. I'm getting to the point. My daughter had beat the dog in a race, so she got to have candy. As she was getting her candy, I saw my STBX reading the letter. She saw me see her and immediately put it down. She marched right into the living room and told my daughter that when she gets her candy, mom and dad have to sit down and talk about some things. This threw me off because we had not come up with any kind of plan at all. She clearly had a plan. I'll save the unneeded details of the basic parent-to-kid talk during divorce, but my STBX was leading the charge. She went from not wanting to talk about a plan to having one and not including me in it. One of the biggest talks I will ever have with my child, and she excluded me from it. She had clearly been coached by her mother, which I am fine with. She started off pretty decent. She had told my child that we would be rotating seeing her every other week. I stopped her and asked did she not read that letter, to which she said I didn't have time. She read it, but didn't have time. You didn't have a plan, but now you're in a rush to get the conversation out to her. Crazy. What a piece of crap. It gets worse. She told my kid, who kept asking why, that you know how daddy comes home angry sometimes. Well, that's not always his fault. Sometimes it's mine, so mommy is going to move in with Nana so daddy isn't angry all the time. Are you kidding me? I was so destroyed to realize in that very moment that everyone was right. This is a worthless woman who is now going to use my child as a pawn against me. I had told my child that we tried our very best to make it work and that mommy was still my best friend and we would still be caring and loving for her the same, and in fact we would now be able to focus all of our attention and love on her individually. I told her we will still do things as a family, etc. I said it doesn't seem like it now, but this is what is best for us, to which my child released her hug from me, looked me in my eyes and said, "No daddy, you're doing what worst for the family." I am so hurt. However, all of my feelings of guilt, regret, hope, love, all gone in that very moment. This is now a mission to get this woman out of my life, and it starts today. I am writing this from work as her mom and dad prepare to come over and move her the F out of my home. Time to live for me. I know I have a long road to go of healing and recovery. I have a lot of lonely nights ahead of me. But on the other side of this I am going to find myself, my true happiness, my actual person in life, and I'm going to have such a close relationship with my child, and I am so excited for that. Half a year later, I'm actually proud to say that I literally did everything I could have done to save my marriage. I did not and will not explain to my 7-year-old daughter that her mom has a boyfriend. That was appreciated advice, but I can't do that. I'd be just as guilty as her mother if I were to paint her in that light and make her think less of her mom. She will figure this out on her own one day. My job is to continue to be the best father I can be no matter what BS my STBX throws at me. The idea isn't to point a finger at one another to make the child understand. The finger was pointed at me and then I had to do damage control, which I did. I did not know that my STBX was going to tell her that we are divorcing because daddy is angry all the time. I was in complete shock. I have since spoken to my daughter on a couple of occasions about this, and I asked her, "Do you agree that daddy is angry all the time?" And she confidently responded, "No, because I'm not." So, I then went on to explain to her that sometimes people do not agree on things. I explained to her that mom and dad still love each other, and we tried hard to make things work and stay in the same home, but we realized we are happier and healthier when we are not together. I don't honestly know what she truly feels about it, but she isn't acting any differently, and I am not going to pry further if she is seemingly fine, and that was at the guidance of my required parenting class instructor. I asked my STBX about 6 weeks ago to come to the lawyer with me so we can come up with a division of property, custody, etc. She spent the entire time crying and begging me to stay with her. So, I pushed forward with the process while still trying to be friendly with her. I love her and I can be friends with her, but she can't. It's either we are going to fix this or you are my enemy. I'll explain. She spent the last 4 to 5 weeks sending me super long messages saying how sorry she is, how much she has changed, how she realizes she should have been doing more to help, how much she loves me, etc. etc. I tried at first to respond to most of them, but it would take me so long to do so, and it felt like I was having to tell her over and over again that this is over, and that was hard. So, a lot of her messages I read but did not respond to. That made her angry. She would change her stance on things and get ugly, saying things like, "I'm not using your attorney, I don't trust you to not screw me over." Which just confused me because I am literally doing nothing to show that I am the one screwing anyone over, and also how can you say you love me so much but at the same time say you don't trust me not to screw you over? It made me realize, just as what has been told to me on this thread, that she is seriously only after what I provide, not who I am. It disgusted me. I'll save some of the smaller incidents to keep this somewhat short and move on to more recent times. She ended up getting served, and I guess she wasn't home, so the server went to her job, and she was really mad and reasonably embarrassed by this. She said she felt like the paperwork wasn't fair and that I was trying to take her parental rights. I told her I truly am not, and to please tell me or the attorney what the issues are so we can change them, and she ignored it. She did, however, turn up her efforts in getting me to take her back. She knew that if she invited me to enough things when she had custody of my daughter, I couldn't keep saying no, and that was how she got me to hang out with her twice. She used the kid. I think this made her think she was getting me back because I was able to be around her and be happy. But I was there for my child. Here's what brings us up to date on the crap show that is this divorce. One night my daughter was planning a sleepover at the neighbors, and my STBX knew that. Late in the night she messaged me when she knew my daughter was gone and asked if she could come see me and have one more night where she could pretend everything was okay. We had a long back and forth with me trying to explain to her how unhealthy and unfair that was to both of us, and she eventually said something to the effect of, "That's my house too, and I shouldn't have to beg to see my husband. I am coming over right now, and you can go in the bedroom and make this awkward if you want, or you can do what I want, come watch a movie on the couch with me." I couldn't believe it. Mind you, we are living in her family's city. My family is over an hour away and I have nowhere else to go. That on top of the fact I have custody of my child who is next door and it's 11 p.m. The only thing that stopped her from coming over was me lying and saying my sister was on the way because she knows my sister, also a veteran, will knock her into next week. She said I was overreacting and trying to make her seem crazy. She is crazy. She told me the next morning that I'll just say groomed for no reason and is changing her stance on everything. She went from wanting nothing to wanting almost everything. I told her I knew that was her intention, but I still couldn't believe she was changing her entire mindset because I would not sleep with her. I then realized that in actuality it wasn't that I didn't sleep with her. This was her intention the entire time, and it was coming out regardless of if I didn't reconcile with her. I tried telling her that when she moved out, she stopped paying the mortgage, the utilities, the insurances, pet care, childcare, etc., and I calculated that to be almost $9,000 I was solely responsible for. That, plus the hot water pipe busted and flooded the basement, I paid for that. The furnace went out, that was $5,500, and I paid all of that too. And now you have the audacity to say you deserve equity from the home. She told me that I was a big boy and took on all of that debt running away from my family. I responded saying I took on that debt running away from an unfaithful woman, and she said, that was 4 years ago, stay mad. I guess forgetting she just cheated again in 2021 lol. I just told her that I am glad her true colors are showing and that I knew her changes were all smoke and mirrors. She begged and pleaded for me to forgive her and said that she said those things out of anger and she doesn't want to take a single thing from me and that she has changed and just slipped up. I still didn't reconcile. She had 4 days left to respond to the served paperwork, and I get an email from my lawyer saying that she retained counsel and that now we had to prepare for a much longer divorce process, with my first court date being the first week of November. I messaged her asking WTF did you get a lawyer for when I told you I would change everything you need me to change. She sent a long message about needing to protect herself and make sure she gets what is fair, but at the same time if I wanted to meet with her and just talk and maybe try to see if we can still fix this, she is willing. I'm like, are you seriously this crazy? You are seriously this one side or the other. No middle ground at all for just an amicable, friendly divorce. I had to rush to get into parenting classes to satisfy the court because she waited so long to respond. I had to track down so much freaking paperwork for her, and my entire life is about to be laid out for the eyes of jerks who don't need to see it in the first place. I have nothing to hide but the fact that I now had to provide years of tax returns, pay stubs, TSP statements, the deed to my home, my debit and credit card statements, all because she didn't want to use one attorney and would rather fight me. It's unreal. We haven't spoken in almost a week and she won't even respond when I message her about something related to my child. Which tells me she probably found another guy, which good for her. I'm just sad and frustrated but trying to just get this over with so I can assess the damage and recover. As long as I have my child, and hopefully my dog, I'll be fine. As far as how I am personally feeling, I go through a lot of ups and downs. Moments of really feeling like I am happy and feel confident I did the right thing, and other moments I go through really dark and ugly struggles that are especially bad when I don't have my daughter. I know that this is part of the process though, and in reality, these feelings will go away and I am truly doing the right thing. She has proven that time and time again. Thanks again for everyone that has read these posts or provided some type of advice. I will again come back and give an update when I have more. Court is in 2 weeks. I actually do not have a therapist for this. The advice I was given came from the instructor of these required parenting courses that teach about how your child could react to a divorce and how to co-parent properly, etc. She agreed that I should not tell my daughter that we are divorcing because her mom brought other men into the relationship. I know you said keep it age appropriate, but how would you appropriately tell someone who doesn't truly understand the dynamics of what an adult relationship is? Why mine failed? I think that would add confusion. Additionally, I would be more willing to have that conversation with her if the issue kept being pressed. It hasn't. It is probably in her mind that we potentially did break up because of my anger, which again my daughter agrees she doesn't see. But she isn't acting any differently towards me, her friends, her schooling has not been affected. She seems like things are fine. She doesn't question why we can't all live together anymore, and she doesn't relay anything negative to me that her mom might be saying. I also agree that I may be setting myself up to get railroaded, but I think this is a situation I need to be reactive on, not really proactive. If my STBX continues bashing me, and my child brings it up, I am not going to just let her mom continue to be the good person. I will continue to show my child that her mother is wrong through my actions. If she gets to an age where I think she could handle the information, and is curious, I will eventually share this with her. I just can't see any reason to tell a 7-year-old about adultery. I can't Barney-style that conversation. I do not have full custody of my child. I shouldn't have worded it like that, I suppose. What I meant was I had custody of her at the time, like it was my day. We are on a 2-2-3 schedule with 50-50 joint legal and physical custody, which I will say that I proposed and my STBX has stuck by. I do not know, though, if she is sneaking behind my back with her lawyer to ask for more come our court date. Who really knows? Funny, I said I'm pretty sure she has a boyfriend. I guess I was wrong because I got a text from her 5 minutes ago apologizing for not responding in a week and asking could we have one last face-to-face conversation. So yeah, I guess the roller coaster continues. My comment: if she doesn't respond to texts that should warrant a response, stop sending them. Document. And while I get not wanting to explain that mommy cheated, even in a kid-friendly way, to a 7-year-old, the idea that doing so would somehow make you just as bad as her is ludicrous. What do you guys think of the ending? What you expected? Story 2, Taking a Chance. I finally left my drunk ex last December 21st. On that day he had been drunk for 8 days straight and fell down the stairs. I called an ambulance because he was bleeding profusely. The first responders were a police officer who arrested me because, in his drunk state, he said I pushed him down the stairs and attacked him with a bottle. The charges were dropped, but I never went back. We had a business together. I tried to keep it going but realized that I was doing all the work and he was doing all the drinking for half the money I was making. So, I stopped their relationship too. For a few months I felt sorry for him, so continued to do his billing and accounting reports, but when he was more drunk than sober and could not provide me with the documentation I needed, I stopped that too. On March 27th I sent him one final email telling him that not only is the personal relationship over, that was told to him over and over again in calls, texts, and emails, but so was the business relationship. I did it in an email because, as a drunk, he has a tendency to forget what I say. I then blocked his number so I am not getting his texts or calls, but he can still leave me voicemails. I don't know what triggered him yesterday, as I have not had any contact with him since March 27th, but he has left many voicemails, none of them very nice. I am trying really hard not to respond in any way. I know that I was an enabler and continued to be after the end of the relationship, always trying to help to make sure he had a good handle on the company which I gave him my shares of. I don't know how long I am supposed to let him continue to verbally abuse me over voicemails. I had 18 years of verbal abuse when he was drunk, and I was really hoping that this would stop after the relationship ended, but it has not. I actually don't understand what he wants from me. He has had a girlfriend since the beginning of March, which he was nice enough to announce on Facebook for the world to see. I was happy for him, a bit annoyed that he had found someone so quickly, but understood that he cannot live alone, and so, if he had someone other than me, he would leave me alone. But no, having a girlfriend has not stopped the abuse towards me. I did think of getting a restraining order, but that would, in my warped mind, or his, not quite sure, be a link between us which I don't want. I can continue to not respond to his voicemails. I have been doing so for almost a month now, but it's the feeling I get when I hear the voicemails, the anger and the anguish I feel. I want to help, but I know I can't. I want to call him and scream at him, but I know I can't. So, I don't. How long is this going to last? How can I get over the anger when he calls without letting it ruin my entire day? I want nothing to do with him. I have made that very clear, in writing, but he just doesn't get it. It takes a lot out of me to not answer his voicemails, but you are absolutely right. Whenever I answered in the past, it was ridiculous. He could call me 10 to 15 times in one day. The more drunk he gets, the more he calls, the more abusive the calls are. I have moved and he doesn't know my address. After I got arrested, I moved in with my son for a few weeks until I found an apartment close to my son. It is very likely my ex thinks that I am still living with my son, and that's fine by me. I thought about changing my phone number, but that would be a last-ditch effort, as I have had the same number for over 15 years and I use it for my job. Honestly, I did believe that after I left it would be his bottom and he would sober up, but that was not to be. I wouldn't gone back regardless, but it would have been good for him. He is pathetic. It is very pathetic that at 55 he cannot make a meal, clean a house, or do his laundry. It is also pathetic that at 55 he cannot take care of his own financial business. He is pathetic, and I do hope he will let go and just forget my number. I did block his number, but blocked numbers can leave voicemails. I am keeping his voicemails in case I do get to that point where I will have to give them to the police to get a restraining order. I honestly had hoped that he had reached his bottom when he fell at the bottom of the stairs, pun intended, but it was not to be. He called my brother, who brought him home from the hospital, and, honestly, did not make the connection between the blood on the floor and the gash on his head, and then had a drink. Changing the phone number will be a last-ditch solution, as I have been using it for work for the past 15 years or more. As for making threats on my life, I am not sure what he said on yesterday's voicemail was a threat on my life. He said, "You are dead, not I will kill you," and he was quite drunk when he said it. One thing in my favor is that I was really nice to the police officers who arrested me and put me in jail. One of them, particularly, a female police officer, when she drove me home with her partner to pick up clothes to move out, told me, "This is your chance to remake your life." She could see that I was living in hell. I went back to the police station about a month ago to thank the 2 arresting officers and the 2 officers who took me home for their compassion during this very difficult evening. I understand, they were doing their job. They had to investigate his claims even though he was drunk, and one police officer almost apologized for arresting me. During this conversation, the female police officer who had been so nice to me told me that she passes by the house from time to time. I honestly believe that they are hoping to catch him coming back from driving drunk. I don't believe his new girlfriend is home with him every day, so he needs to go get the boxes of wine somehow, and he will not go on foot. I have stopped looking at his social media. Voicemails are the last frontier. For legal reasons though, just to be on the safe side, I do have to save them. It's really a weird dynamic after 18 years. I never want to go back to him, ever, but I also don't wish him anything bad. I keep hoping that he will sound like a human being on the phone, and he rarely does. I know, he's not there anymore, and it's just very sad. He doesn't care much. After he sent me to jail and I ended up having to move out because of the no-contact order that was issued, he continued to call me between 15 to 20 times a day. I had my criminal lawyer call him to say that I was not going to answer because I was going to breach a court order. That didn't stop him. He called anyway. I had the police tell him twice not to contact me, and he would call and leave a voicemail that said, "I know that you can't call me because of the no-contact order, but I won't tell anyone." Seriously, that's how a drunk mind works, or at least his drunk mind. He needs someone to take care of him so he can drink without a care in the world, and he is willing to do anything to get someone, in this case me, to do this for me. I don't want to bother the police. In mid-March, I got a call from one of his clients on a Saturday morning. It's someone I do work for from time to time. The client told me that my ex was supposed to be at the company in the morning and he was supposed to also call a user at home, but nothing. They tried to call him and there was a message that his phone had been disconnected. I am not a monster, so I called his brother to do a check, but his brother lives over an hour away, so it was decided to send the police for a wellness check as we were both afraid that since he was alone. In many of his messages he said that he was alone, so I thought he didn't have a girlfriend anymore, and he had been leaving drunk messages for over a week, that he might have fallen again. The police called me back to say he looked okay and was with a woman and that they couldn't tell me anymore since they didn't know the relationship we have. I am afraid that having empathy might have the adverse effect that the police now think I am a disgruntled ex-girlfriend. I am thinking of calling the criminal lawyer and see what she thinks. I have severed all ties, wrote him emails to make sure he understood his talking doesn't work. He forgets in his drunkenness that I said anything. I blocked his phone so he can't text or call me, but voicemails do go through. I do not engage, do not reply in any way, stop all my urges to help or tell him off, my two go-to emotions with him. I just wish he understood. How dense do you have to be to keep calling? I am guessing texting, but I don't see those. Someone who never calls you back. I am not young, but I am not that old either. I'm 55 years old and am working really hard on myself to be happy, to be fit, to be my best self. I also want to make sure that should I ever want to be in a relationship again, I have taken care of my past relationship and have taken care of any resentment that I have and any hurt that I feel because of the continued verbal abuse I suffered for so many years. I know what to do, and so far, I have done it, and am just hoping that the only way he still has to contact me, voicemail, will be few and far between and just stop. I remind myself, every time he leaves me a voicemail since I blocked his number, that it is no longer my problem. Helping him is a hard habit to break. However, after reading on this thread I feel stronger and will remind myself that I am now free. He is not my problem. If his life goes down the drain, at least it will not be taking me with him. Now I am really at a loss. He left me a voicemail again where he is threatening to call my boss, who he has known for years, because I am refusing to call him back for what he calls professional questions he has. He didn't sound completely sober. I already sent him an email on March 27th which had for subject, "End of professional relationship." There was also an email on January 1st where I told him I was never coming back. I need help deciding what to do. 1. Nothing, as I have no clue what he would be calling my boss for. 2. Simply resend the email I already sent him on March 27th. 3. Send him a new email with the old one to tell him that should he not stop calling me I will have no choice but to press harassment charges against him. 4. Call a lawyer. To be honest, option 3 is my least favorite, as I think that would just be adding fuel to his fire. My favorite option would be to do nothing, but I get the feeling that the more I do nothing, the more he will be harassing me. I did think about giving my boss a heads up. However, if my ex does nothing, then I sound like the crazy one, as no one knows that he is a drunk. I covered very well over the years. My bad. And you are right, I guess he is just trying anything he can think of to force me to call him. If he does call my boss, what is he going to say? My ex doesn't refuse to talk to me? I highly doubt my boss cares. Although, I have to say that the idea to call a lawyer is something I am thinking about, although the cost is what is stopping me. I don't think he will call my boss. He will be a fool if he does. What is he going to tell him? She won't return my calls. My boss doesn't care. I will be contacting a lawyer to find out what my rights are and how to get an order for him to stop harassing me. I should not deal with this alone. I did tell my friends and family, and they all knew that he drank a little, but they were actually surprised to learn the extent of his drinking. I covered up well for him. As for my boss, he's my boss, not my friend. He doesn't feel comfortable bringing him into my personal life. If my ex actually does call, I will deal with it then. I have kept my boss away from all the drama. I told him that I was no longer with my ex because my ex did work for the company. I asked to store a few things at the office and he agreed. And when the professional relationship was no longer possible, I told my boss with no explanation, and he seemed okay with that and expecting it to happen at some point. He honestly didn't seem to care. I have been keeping my personal drama away from the office as much as possible. Work is work, personal is personal, and, for me, they just don't mix. Well, today he cost me $800. He had said that he was going to take over the cable bill for the house, and I found out today, from the cable company, that not only had he not taken the bill over, but he had actually not paid the bill since January. So now, I am hoping that he does the right thing and calls the company to take over the bill and pay the invoice, or he will be cut off in 48 hours and I will owe $800. There are no words to express how absolutely angry I am. The cable company told me that I could make a deal right away to pay the bill, but I don't want to. I am still hoping he will do the right thing. If I pay the bill now, then he is free to use the cable and not pay for 3 months again. And I will still owe. If I cut it off now, then I still have to pay the $800 because it's in my name. The only chance I have to not have to pay this money is if he does the right thing and takes it over. Thankfully, that was the only bill in my name. It could have been worse. I will call and cancel and make a deal to pay a little every month. It is just so infuriating. My comment: there is nothing wrong with grieving the relationship. You have to go through that process, but don't worry about him. Check up on him, etc. Cut ties completely for your own sake, and it will save you money in the future.